Welcome to my series on how to use Autodesk Revit. In this, I will show you how to start up Revit, start a project in it. First, we'll be doing a commercial space, and eventually we'll get into the residential type of buildings as well. But first few videos will be pretty basic. We'll start up with how to get it going, how to get some level lines in there, and how to set up your grid. The next one after that, we'll put in some beams and columns and so on. But let's just get us started. We'll open up a new file. So in this screen that we have up right now, we have the ability to open up any of our projects that we've had in the past opened. They'll show up here. Then you can go down into an area where if you have worked on any of the families, we'll get into that later, what all that means. Families and different parts of the projects would be in here if you've had anything particular that you had fabricated in Revit. You could open that down in here in families. But for now, we're just going to open up a new Revit file. We're going to start off with a Control N. We'll get us a dialog box that will ask us what type of template we're after. In this case, they do give us a bunch of templates from imperial and metric in various different sorts of styles, construction style, architectural, structural templates, but in both imperial and metric. The other thing to note is that we have the ability to then load in something. If our company has had a template that they'd like to use all the time, we can browse for that, and that could be also in there. But for now, we'll just open up an imperial architectural template. We've selected that. It's going to do project and press OK. This will open up our initial screen where we can see this big white space with the four sort of house-looking arrows. These actually will end up being your views of your elevations at the time once you start building your building. You'll be able to see, because this is a top view down. This will be you're going to be looking at it. At this point, you're looking at the top of your selection at level 1, as it says here on the left hand side in the project browser. That's where we're at. It also has level 1 as indicated up on just below the ribbon. There will be an indication of what level you're working on or viewing along the top of here. But it's important, if you're making a building, to actually put in your level lines first. So we'll do level lines, and we'll actually select maybe the east elevation, which is down in your properties menu in the project browser on the left hand side. So we've picked, under elevations, we picked east, and here you'll notice that you have the ability to select. You've got the level lines that are already in here. Level 1 at 0, 0. Level 2 at 10 foot 0. And in this case, what that is if you were just drawing out the building and you were assuming a perfect datum of 0, a start point from whichever reference point on your actual building site would be 0, you could do that by just starting where we're at, and that would be fine. The other alternative, of course, is to have actual elevation heights that you could put in here from your sea level and work your way up, and that's totally fine. Then you would at least know if there was some bylaw that was required to work with that would allow you to only build up to such and such a height from the elevation of usually some datum point on your sidewalk or such that the city's surveyors have put in there, then you could work with that and ensure that your building is within those parameters. Anyways, to get into this, we'll end up having it so that at this particular case, we've got our units are set at feet. You could set the units by pressing UN. You could set them to being metric or imperial from this point, and now's the time to do it if you'd like to do it. You could switch them at a later point, but if you're trying to make it so that this was a metric, I understand that we did open an imperial template, but if you'd like to have the imperial template but then switch it over to metric units at any point, you could press UN, and that will get you into this dialog box here that will be able to change up your angles, area, cost per area, distance, length, mass density, rotation angle, slope, speed, time, volume, and currency. There's a number of options in here that you could be changing. We won't worry about doing that in this case. We'll keep with, feet and inches. Imperial's fine. A lot of projects will be one or the other. They generally won't be both. It gets a little bit confusing on the job site. So what we have here is a 10-foot height gap between level 1 and a level 2. If we'd like to have more than those two levels, however, we must add in level lines. So to do that, we will type LL, and that will bring up the ability to draw in or to copy up level lines. So in this case, we already have levels that are selected here. We could work off of those, and we can actually go up to our draw menu up in the ribbon and select the green selection here, the green line. It says pick lines. We'll use that, and we'd like to have the same offset as what we've already come up with was 10 feet. So whatever it is that you're trying to do with yours, you could put it, depending on what your engineers or architects or whichever you're working with has said that you're going to use, or maybe you're the engineer, who knows, but they might select a different level, but we'll go with 10. That's what we've already got in there. We'll just carry on with that. And the way that we add in levels at this point is, once we've selected our offset up in the just below the ribbon, there's this bit it's called offset on the left, just left of the center. We can take our mouse and gently, like, we don't have to push the button yet, but we'll hold it over just to show up that there is a phantom line that shows up above the level 2. We don't want to go crazy clicking things, because that will just add levels. At this point, if we're trying to do one up, then we would click that, or if we wanted to add them lower, you can see that level 1, I've got a line below that, this phantom line. We could add them lower, and that'll be at a 10-foot increment as our offset is indicated up here. So let's add a couple upwards of level 2. So there's level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6. And that should be fine. We're just doing a quick example. 6 levels up, and we'd like to maybe put 1 down. So we'll go 1 level down. That adds us a 7 at the bottom here. But before we do anything to change this to not being 7, because of course floor 7 would be a rather confusing thing to find below floor 1, we would like to change that to basement or foundation. We'll change it to foundation in this case. But for right now, what we're going to do is press escape a couple times to get out of that command. So we're not adding more levels as we click along here. If we were to, say, hover over this again and just keep even by accident clicking, that will add in a bunch of levels. And your level 3 might have level 8, 9, 10, and so on in it, hidden in there, and that would maybe not be the best solution for us. We can actually adjust a lot of things with Revit. I'll start off with these level lines. You can change the label on them by simply clicking on the level, and then as it's highlighting the box around whatever it is that you're trying to change the label of, you can actually open that up to edit it. So we'll actually go in and tell this it is foundation. Foundation level. And we'll press enter. And it asks us if we'd like to rename the corresponding views. We would, because then it just simplifies a whole lot of everything for us. There might be a point where you don't want that to happen, but so far, this is what we want to do. And then, so we have all of your views all the way up, or all of the levels all the way up to level 10, or 10 to 6. And we can then look at our levels on level 1 that we had opened up. It doesn't show us anything yet, but we'll put in the grid lines for this as well. So what we have to do to get the grid lines going, which I wouldn't mind starting that up in level 2, as that we'll just double click on level 2 in the project browser, as that will give us other options that we can load in later. You'll see that makes sense to do this. Right now what we need is grid lines, so we need to type in GR. That opens up the ability to draw in some grid lines. And then once again in the draw menu, in the ribbon, you have the ability to draw a line, a start to end radius arc, and a center to ends arc, or you can do pick lines as well. You can do multi-segment grids that you can just draw to sketch and create multiple segment grids. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to just draw one grid line at the top, somewhere in between, like at the top of your page, but underneath this elevation view tab there. We'll go and draw one straight across here. That gives us grid line 1 as indicated. We can go up here and up into the ribbon and put more of them in. We can use, as we did with the levels, we can do pick lines again. So we've got pick lines in there, and we'd like, because it's still construction building, we wouldn't want the lines to be too close together. It wouldn't make very much sense. As a commercial building, your spaces will be fairly far apart, as to why this is half of the reason why we would use something so strong as steel, so you could get a little bit of a gap. And it gets a little bit close if you make the you'll see later how this works out. But if you have too close a grid and you're making your columns and beams and such off of that, it'll become a very busy building and very overbuilt in no time. We'll put in a 25-foot offset in the top. Just underneath the ribbon, you have the offset dialog box here as well, same as how we had our level lines one. And we've got the pick lines selected, same as how we did the level lines. We'll just hover underneath it, and we click, and it created 2. Carry on down, 3, 4, 5, go as far as 6. That looks fine. So we have 6 lines. But we would like to have some cross lines as well to make a grid. So we'll do the under draw, we have lines. Again, we'll draw some downwards now. So we'll go from the top, and you'll notice that the angle changes. You can tell what angle it is that you're going to draw this at. And actually what we've got here, I don't want to do this at this point because this is actually putting our offset from where we're at to 25 feet out of where we're drawing. So we're not in line with anything that we'd like to be. Sort of are, but we'll escape out of that. And we'll do GR for grid lines again. Do pick lines. Or not pick lines, we'll do a line straight down under the lines under draw and work our way down. As I said, you can see the angle that you're going to draw it at, and now we don't have it outside of where we were planning on being. This will be our first line. We'll place what says line 7 at this time. We don't really want it to be line 7. We'll put it at 25 before we change anything right now. Maybe we'll get out of this. We'll escape a couple times here. To get out of that command. And then at this point, what we should do is actually change this from saying 7. We can actually change that in the bubble, or we could change it up here in the properties menu. And we can change that to, we'll say it's A. This will make more sense to have it as a letter than to have it as a number, because when you're describing the grid, you'd like to maybe say that the point that we're looking at, the column, is going to be column 1A or A1 rather than A7. It doesn't make any sense really. It could, but it could become very confusing to somebody if they're looking at your drawing and they're looking at two different sets of numbers that they're supposed to line up. In this case, we'll go with the letters. Makes perfect sense to me. We'll add some more lines in there for the grid. Type in GR again, and we'll put another offset of 25 feet. And go up to in the ribbon, there's a draw, and you have pick lines as an option again. That will put your offsets 25 feet off of grid line A, and we could do it on either side, but we'd like to build inwards towards where our view range will be of our elevations. So we'll put it just to the right of grid A. Grid line B, we could see that it's actually putting a B, and then C, D, and so on. We'll make it go as far as grid line G. And that is us setting up our grid lines and our level lines.